Okay, do you have a notification that says Youri's recording the call?
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
Okay, perfect. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another edition of 1+1, your place for inconvenient truth-telling and myth-busting. And on the program today, we explore the country of Italy and its history, and we'll be assessing the legacy of the late former Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi, and hopefully, if we have time, delve into some of the current state of affairs and hopefully explore the chronic situation of Italy, which keeps getting one right-wing, dingbat after another, and a very weak left in Italy. So my guest to explain all of this in our All Things Italian edition is Cecilia Capanna. Cecilia is an independent journalist and feminist, and she is associated, I believe, with Other News, right? That's the name of the publication?
Yes, but I'm freelance, actually. Thank you for having me.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Well, thank you for that. It's an honor to have you. And before we talk about your before we talk about your country, specifically Berlusconi, tell us a little bit about your background, if you don't mind.
I'm a journalist. I'm an activist, and I focus my work. My job is focused on human rights, social rights, and women rights, and climate change. All the issues that are affecting the world nowadays, and that's what I do.
Oh, fantastic! And that means we're going to have you back on. We're going to have to make you a regular so that we can delve into all of those topics and how Italy plays a role in all of that. Then. All right. So let's begin now. Before we talk about the rise of Berlusconi and we assess his legacy, talk to us if you can about Italy post World War II and the governance of the Christian Democrats, who, when I look at the list of Italian prime ministers, most since the end of World War II, a lot of the heads of states have come from the Christian Democrats, and I believe they had the backing of of Italian business, the Italian business community, the CIA to the CIA to a certain extent, and the Vatican. Am I correct?
You are, definitely. So, la Democrazia Cristiana, which is a Christian democracy, governed was leading Italy for many times, many years, and it was right in the center, not leftish, not right. So after the Second World War, they managed Italy, and you were right, in connection with CIA and connection with some American, how to say, influence, since they set us free from Nazi fascism in a certain way. And in a certain way, we are still there, more or less. Because Italy is a slice of land in the middle of Mediterranean Sea, and we have a strategic location, how to say, mostly in those times when Cold War was up. And so there was the fear from United States that communism and socialism would affect Italy. And so Italian people voted in the center, in the middle, and mostly this Christian Democrazia Cristiana, because they managed to give a certain stability to the country. But then, after the fall of the wall in 1989, sorry.
The fall of the Berlin Wall, the end of communism in the Eastern Bloc, the end of the USSR.
Yeah, the end of the end of the Cold War. The Pentapartito, which was a coalition that was leading Italy, in which Democrazia Cristiana was leading, collapsed. And then Mani Pulite, which was a big, how to say,
a series of political scandals that plagued Italy throughout much of the throughout much of the 90s, right?
Exactly. So they got rid of all these political people that was involved in the scandals, and everything changed. And so the First Republic, what we called the First Republic, ended and started the Second Republic. And Silvio Berlusconi, let's say, he is the main character of the Second Republic. Now we are even in the third. I don't know where we are, but he is the Second Republic, even though his connection with one of the most controversial and discussed leader of those times, Bettino Craxi, was very strong. So they were very tied up friends, and they helped each other in climbing
the political social ladder.
Exactly. Mostly economical and social for Berlusconi at those times, because he wasn't yet in the political scene. He decided to, he says, to come in the field, to go down on the field using a soccer language in 1994. And he was perfectly incarnating, how to say, interpreting Italian culture of those times. Everything was changed because of the US influence, even in a cultural way, social way, and also neoliberalism and all the liberistic, how to say, policies that started after the fall of the wall with globalization made our culture, but I think all Western culture, very light, very how to say, ephemeral, not deep. We lost a lot of welfare, and with the welfare, all the attention and funds for culture, for art, culture, and the television that Berlusconi set up was based mostly on the silly things, very light things, not trying to raise up our population in terms of intellectual stuff, but with silly entertainment and with very garbage TV. And that was the way he managed to win the elections too, because he used soccer language, he used soccer images, and soccer here in Italy is very, culturally speaking, is very strong, you know?
Yeah.
We are, everybody is a soccer supporter of some team. And so he was very smart, and he was a super strong and good communicator. And that's why we ended up with his government for 20 years. And then other 10 years of his presence in the political scene here in Italy. But when we talk about his legacy and his heritage, we have three kind of legacies. One is the economical one, and today his testament was published, came up. So all the amount of money, all this empire he owned was split. His business and his company was given to the first two children from the first marriage.
Yeah.
And then he gave a lot of money to his brother, to his last wife. He had plenty of wives. And but the scandal was that he gave 30 millions to Marcello Dell'Utri, which was he was condemned for association with mafia. And he was the one who was with Berlusconi at the beginning when they started the whole thing with money from mafia.
Wow.
Yes, this is what he did. So this is the person that had state funeral, very I don't know how to say it in English, when you make the institutional funeral, and also lutto nazionale, which means that for one day the whole Italy is like locked down, shut down, because
Exactly. In official mourning, and it's and officially the whole society is basically bidding farewell to a prime minister who, yeah,
but
somebody that's engulfed with so much controversy, and who I don't think his legacy is all that more positive. You think, do we really have to enforce official mourning and have the taxpayers pay for a very big grand funeral for a very divisive and controversial figure, right?
That's the problem. That's the thing. And he also gave 30 million euros to this person, and this is a shame to me. But then this is the economical legacy and heritage. Then there's the political one. So it is very hard to find a person who might be his, who might inherit his legacy in a political way, because Berlusconi is a unique person, unique figure, unique character. What happened with him is something that happens once every 2 centuries, I think, when Napoleone came up, or I don't know, somebody who has a very strong personality, is very good in doing some stuff, and all the planets get on one line, So his ability to, in many things, and how he was able to interpret and to understand the times he was living it, and using his abilities to write it. So it's really unique. So it's really hard, even because we have a very low level of political people now.
Yeah.
Very, very low level. It's really difficult to find who can follow up with this, with his political line. So they were talking about Giorgia Meloni, who is the prime minister now, and she's very close to the first daughter of Berlusconi. And they are very, very close, and they are helping each other, Marina Berlusconi. But then somebody talked about Antonio Tajani, who was, now he is the one who is trying to follow up. But lately, somebody is talking about his last son. He has five children. And Luigi Berlusconi is his last son. He's from the second wife, Veronica Lario, of Berlusconi. And this guy looks like he's a really good, the right person to follow the father, even if he's very, very different from the father. He's very good in his job. He was born in 1988. He's a very good dealer. He's very good. And he's very shy, though. He's very, he's not, it's the opposite, not a communicator. He likes to be hidden in a certain way. And he's also a very Catholic. So he prays a lot. He's very, it's the opposite of the father with banga banga, and all that stuff. We already know very well. And the
Yes, exactly. But that's unbelievable. But I wanted to ask a follow up about the Christian Democrats' legacy. Now, didn't
okay.
they? Now, didn't they only get into? Well, I mean, there's various reasons why they got into power. They had the support of the Italian business community. They had the support of the Vatican. But when it comes to the CIA aspect, because Italy had a very strong Italian communist movement, which fought in the front lines against fascism. Certainly, none of the supporters of the Christian Democrats would have ever have fought against fascism, since there's that strong ties of we need since there's that lionizing of the business community and having the church, the Catholic Church, be center of that. But but the Italian Communist Party, weren't they set to win the elections? But then the CIA and the help of the Vatican, warns people that communists are these godless people, and if you marry such and such a communist, or if you even vote for the Communist Party, you're going to be excommunicated from the church, and that's why people en masse voted for the Christian Democrats, even though they kind of had to hold their nose up about it.
So let's say that this kind of pressure from the Vatican was earlier, I think, is the first time after the first years after the Second World War. We had a TV series that was Don Camillo e Pepone, which is the symbolic of this. It was a mayor of a town that was a communist and was always fighting and dealing with the priest, the priest of the church of the town, the little village.
Really?
Yeah. Don Camillo e Pepone, check it out. And it's it's white and black. It's really old. And this is symbolic of what was going on culturally, because the TV shows were used as always, they are used to influence people's mind, and people thinking. And so this is what happened. And the church, yes, was making pressure against the communism in Italy. But mostly US was very worried, as I told you, because Italy is in the middle, and it is right on the line between the eastern part of the world and the western part of the world. And it's like, do you know the game Mikado? When you take Italy, if you take off Italy, everything, all the Europe was collapsing because all the Europe would follow. European countries would follow maybe Italy, and there was there was a time later in the 70s where a very important leader of the Democrazia Cristiana instead understood that a dialogue with communism and with the eastern part of the world would be possible. His name is Aldo Moro. Have you ever heard about him?
Yes, but I don't know as much about him as Andreozzi, who has a lot of skeletons in his closet, right?
Democrazia Cristiana, so Christian democracy. So this guy, Aldo Moro, was trying to make a connection and open a dialogue, just open a dialogue. And what he was going to do, and he was willing to do, it's called compromesso storico, historical compromise. So this is the meaning of democracy, actually. What are we talking about? We are talking about democracy. The Western part of the world is the maker of democracy all over the world, US, first of all. But democracy is dialogue, is when a thesis and antithesis get together, you discuss in a good way, and then you find out the solution, the synthesis of everything. So this is what he wanted to do, but he was stopped because behind the Brigate Rosse, the red red terrorism group here in Italy, CIA, Andreotti, and everybody, Masonic, the Masoneria that is still there, but in those times was really, really strong and powerful. They kidnapped this guy, and after a long time, he was kidnapped, and he wrote a lot of letters, very, very painful to me. He was killed.
And the official story at the time was that this this Christian Democrat leader who was willing to talk with the Italian Communist Party, the Italian Socialist Party, so he was kidnapped, and the official story was that he was kidnapped by far left terrorists. But well, if one digs deep into Operation Gladio, it seems as if he wasn't really killed by left-wing terrorists, but that he was actually killed by the Operation Gladio, these pro-NATO far-right groups sanctioned by the Italian state, NATO countries, the United States, who later blamed it on far-left terrorists, but it was really, them that was doing the terrorism, right?
That's what I was saying. Yes, of course. You can understand red terrorists might not like a guy from the Christian democracy trying to deal with communists, because they might have thought that maybe he would try to make communism smoother, but we are, they were
hard or whatever.
But, yeah, maybe there was a deal, maybe there was not, but for sure they were instrumentalized. How can I say? They became a tool. And actually, this guy died, was assassinated, and so there's something before, and there's a before and after Aldo Moro here in Italy, in terms of democracy and politics, and so nothing more happened with communism and socialism here. And after the fall of the wall,
but you also had, but you also had two brief moments, rare occasions, where the Italian Socialist Party governed, but both of those times they didn't last that long. Am I correct?
You are, and this is what this is what's happening. And also lately, when let's say the Democratic parties won the election and stayed for quite a long time after Berlusconi's exit, they weren't really socialist or communist. It was a left wing, center left wing, and let's say that one guy that was the one who won those elections, and his name is Matteo Renzi. He's a perfect Christian democratic. So it looks like
yes,
that
exactly.
the left party was hidden in a hidden way replaced Christian democratic interferences. And so after the globalization, the left-wing parties all over the western part of the world, and so Europe and also United States, lost their power, because with neoliberalism,
and they also adopted neoliberalism. They also adopted, the market is God. We have to privatize things. We don't have to fight so much for better wages and so forth. And
it's like finance overlapped politics and welfare, and it was all about finance without rules, and welfare was totally ignored and lost every power. So the citizen is not anymore in the center of our attention, of our focus, politically speaking, but he is a consumer. He's not a user of services, but he's a consumer. And the left all over these countries lost a lot of power in those terms. They adopted, as you said, the neoliberalistic ways, and that was a really bad thing. And that's how the left parties here in Italy mean now Democrazia Cristiana as well. We are back. We are back on those years, and we didn't move.
That said, can you talk to us about the waves of political? Actually, talk to us more about the waves of political scandals known as the Manupuli scandals or the clean hand scandals, which saw the high courts forcibly disband the Christian Democrats and the Italian Socialist Party. And while you're answering that, I have to ask this question, which is, do you think the courts were being far too harsh on the Christian Democrats and the Italian Socialist Party? And then through that's where we see the rise of Forza Italia, led by Berlusconi, right?
But for sure, this pentapartito was talking you about, so the 5 parties coalition, and there was a Socialist Party and Democrazia Cristiana, Christian Democracy, and other parties together collapsed, both for the collapse of the communism after the fall of the wall, and for manipulating stuff. Manipulate means clean hands, as you said. They were, yes, of course, since a social party and Democrazia Cristiana were the strongest parties at the time, and they were the richest party, because let's say that those money that they stole, they were used to finance the parties. So it was a scandal, but very few people got rich or richer with this stealing money. It was all about making the party stronger, and so it was a political issue. It wasn't something ethical or legal. Now they're stealing the same, but they put money in their pocket. They don't make.
But that said, even though there were all these bribes going on, and there was all these, and there was, corruption, and there was corruption. Do you think, though, that the Italian courts were being far too harsh then on the Christian Democrats and the Italian Socialist Party when they were literally forced to actually shut down and start all new parties and whatnot?
There are many things, many elements. It's hard to say. So lately, a communist leader said that in a certain way, la magistratura, so the judges, were too strong. They were picking up, I don't know how to say it very well in English. So they acted in a very strong way against mostly the Socialist Party.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, he's okay. He said this, but it's too early to say that. There is a big issue with politicians and magistratura, judges, because it looks like there's a fight and a fighting, and Berlusconi talked a lot about that, because of course he said he was persecuted by magistratura.
Yeah, left-wing judges. He said he was being persecuted by left-wing judges, which in a country in which the Christian Democrats dominated the political scene since the end of World War II, that accusation is a pretty is a pretty weak accusation, right?
You mean? Sorry, I didn't understand.
That I mean, when Berlusconi accused the judges of being a bunch of leftists, it's a very weak accusation when you look at how the Christian Democrats mostly govern Italy since the end of World War II. So any of those judges that that were appointed were mostly appointed by the center right leaders.
Yeah.
Center right politicians.
Yeah, but also this is true, and this is correct. But you have to also consider the fact that in the Second Republic, when Berlusconi was there for 20 years, he was making laws for himself. So he made, I don't remember how many laws to protect himself. And judges tried to avoid it, to stop him. That's why he said he's persecuted. So it's not about left or right. It's about Silvio Berlusconi trying to change the laws for himself and rewrite Italian laws for himself. And he was condemned in the only one procedure they succeeded in condemning him, which is a sexual one, no? But he had many other procedures where he was accused to steal money, to refresh money from mafia, to be involved with mafia, a lot of stuff that they couldn't achieve, and he was free. I mean, he was free to do whatever he wanted.
Talk to us a bit more about his legacy with respect to the working class, and how was Berlusconi? How was he always able to make huge political comebacks in Italy, in which, if ever the concept of a coalition government and if ever the concept of coalition governments and how much they are a recipe for a disaster, at least for the left, but even basic stability in Italy, I mean. Yeah, I mean, it seems as if Italy would be much better off if they had an alternative to just coalition government, and yet So talk to us about how Berlusconi always seems to have political comebacks, exploiting, the very weak system sometimes of coalition governments.
He was an entrepreneur, first of all, and he created a lot of jobs, and he was buying people, literally buying people, or helping people have a good job, or changing life of a lot of people. And he was really good in fidelization for himself. This is what he did with the jobs he created with his company. This is what he did with the Banga Banga stuff, which was a PR activity for trying to get closer some important and influence some important people, but also at an international level. I mean, he was dealing with Putin or Gaddafi in the same way, trying to use women as stuff you can buy, and you can give as a present. You can make an exchange, or you have fun with this woman.
With actual prostitutes, though, with
actual prostitutes. Let's say that most of them became technically prostitutes. If the meaning of prostitution is you give something in change of money, something sexual in change of money, no? But not only in change of money, that they were trying to have a position in the world, a position in the society. Maybe they were simple girls, but there were so many girls aiming to be part of that. That this is really impressive, because he was really generous, let's say, generous in giving to these girls money, a house, a car, a position, a job. And he was actually using them to make his own business, besides his own pleasure, let's say. So this happened also in the parliament, where he placed many, many young girls. And that might look as a feminist move, like, I trust these girls and they are able to be in the parliament. But the strategy behind is they are not, they don't have the background to get in the parliament, but I push them in so that they would show me as they would do their best to be at the level. One, two, they would be faithful to me forever. They would be grateful to me forever. And this is what he did. So he was very a manipulator, but in a good, he wasn't a bad guy, because a lot of people loved him. He was really good to a lot of people, but of course, at the end, he was doing his own interest. It's like he was buying the soul of people, you know? And this is how, and also with his television programs, and his soccer language, and his really good way of communication, he was trying to make people be comfortable, make people be happy, make people earn more money, or maybe have just the illusion to earn more money. This is what he did, and this is how he managed to win the election for so many times.
That's fascinating. And as in and then as a feminist, can you talk briefly of how despite Italians how despite the strong culture of Catholicism in Italy, Berlusconi, he was very much a playboy, a serial womanizer, and his low and of course his low common denominator of crass or subtle sexism also helped him win over a large male electorate, right? And you've mentioned a lot, the soccer language, and so that appeals to lots of working class people, but people of all classes. And he was also the it's important for our audience to know that that he was a big media mogul, and he was also the owner of AC Milan. So can you talk a bit more about how Berlusconi, as a feminist, Berlusconi, appealed to the male electorate because of him being, a playboy, a womanizer, and and all that stuff.
There is this ideal character of the man who has many women, who is able to get as many women as he can. His Latin lover, or Don Giovanni, you can call him however you want. But the problem is, this is one mythos of the men we have here, which is the patriarchal character, ideal character. And Berlusconi was totally the perfect one, because he was powerful, he was rich, and he could do and buy and say whatever he wanted, but mostly he was able to have as many women as he could, as he wanted. And for a working class man here, this is a good point. Oh, good for you. You're the smartest. You're a cool one. And so it's like, I like you because of that. And some women too, because patriarchal culture in Italy, unfortunately, is supported also by a lot of women. women of another generation. I'm not talking about the new generations nowadays. They are very aware and very aware of what is going on and what is wrong and what is right with women rights and women way of the right way to talk about women and to deal with women stuff. So by one side, as I told you, he made a lot of women be in the parliament, get into the parliament. But as I told you, it was a strategical move. On the other way, he really destroyed a lot of results of women fight for their rights. What women achieved with their fights in the 70s with his TV shows. I had the chance to, and for just by chance, I saw some, on YouTube, some pieces of 70s shows, just the funny ones, no?
Yeah.
And I could see the difference. So women were very aware of their role, of their potential, and they were fighting to be professionally, intellectually, and considered. So instead, what he did, he put these women, very beautiful women, totally bald, or almost bald, naked, and but they had to act as totally stupid, silly women. So all the women in the TV were totally, they had to look stupid. They weren't stupid at all, but they had to look stupid, but super beautiful and naked. This is what he did. And this is what the ideal woman is for the working class men of those years, of the 80s and of the 90s, and today as well. I'm sorry, we are not very far away, but I will tell you something later. And so this is what happened, that it's like they had a hangover of all these teeth and butts.
Okay.
What happened, and all that. Also, there was a program that is called Non è la Rai, where in Berlusconi's TV, that was putting together a lot of girls, very young girls, and they had to sing and dance and act like a TikToker nowadays. So the ones that just sing and dance without a content, without
and overly sexualized and whatnot.
And that was given as an example of how you have to be, how as a girl you have to act. This is what you are supposed to be. He wasn't pushing girls to study, become a professional, become intellectual. No, you have to dance, you have to shake your butt, you have to be almost naked. This is what he did. And as a feminist, as a woman, I can say he was going backward. Before the feminism movement from the 68 and the 70s here in Italy. And so that there's a big deal now. Let's say that I spent 5 years in the United States. And when I came back here, I could see the situation was even worse than when I left Italy. And that's because our country is an old country. So we have more than 60% of citizens are more than 50 years old.
Yeah.
So, and we have a very, very low demographic increasing, so that young generations is very thin, and there are very little people, no? But if you think and they're very aware because with social media, with internet that we always talk bad about, by one side it's dangerous, by the other side it's informing them, it's giving them a lot of tools, and they connected internationally with their other new generations all over the world, and they are very aware of their rights, of the problems that the world is facing, the deals that the world is facing, like climate change, like human rights, women rights, and that's what's happening in Iran. Look, they are really young, super young. That's what's happening with the post-colonial deal in France, with this very young people fighting like hell to get where they want to get in a wrong way. But this is what they are doing, and they are under 18. And so in Italy, talking about Italy, in 20 years, let's say, the old generation, all these over 50 people, would be, let's say, neutralized. And even though the young people are few people, and most of them are going abroad to find a way to be successful in their life, because here in Italy, young people don't have a lot of chances, talking about jobs, talking about their rights, talking about the future. And so I think there will be a huge change in this country in 20 years. I hope so.
Well, one can only hope, and and hopefully and hopefully climate change doesn't doesn't come anytime soon, or accidental nuclear war. But then I have to ask this question about Berlusconi, which was during Berlusconi's time, like any right wing leader who seems to keep getting elected and stay in power, a popular dissident movement develops and is and that leader is later mocked in popular culture. We saw this with Margaret Thatcher, Nixon, George W. Bush, and to a degree with Donald Trump. And you had this in Italy with Berlusconi with the V-Day protests, where many expressed disgust over Berlusconi's cronyism, corruption, and perceived mismanagement of the economy. Can you talk to us about this and the rise of the sort of left-leaning populist movement, the Five Star Movement, which was led by Beppe Grillo, which at the time many applauded, and I certainly applauded many of their left-leaning populist stances, but later Grillo later started to adopt xenophobic policies, and he even embraced and flirted with Nigel Farage, who was the leader of UKIP at the time, and of course one of the one of the leaders of the Brexit movement, which caused the Britain to leave the European Union.
Populisms are rising up, say today, everywhere in the Western part of the world, mostly because of the failure of neoliberalistic policies. As we were talking about, welfare was replaced by finance, and the citizen became a consumer, and so all his needs were totally ignored, and all his facilities were decreased. No?
Yeah.
Okay, and left parties were unable to be there for the citizen, and so the citizen doesn't believe anymore in politics. He's anti-politics, even if the meaning of the word politics, the real meaning is, it goes to Plato in the ancient times, and puts the citizen in the center of the focus of the target, But with the years and the globalization, the word politics became a bad word, because but all over the world, mostly in the Western countries, so Europe, US. And so citizens that need stuff because they started becoming more poorer, they started having a lot of problems with, for instance, here in Italy with health system. That, yeah, we pay a lot of taxes, but health system doesn't work. Schools, education doesn't work. Our bridges are collapsing and falling. 40 people died in Genova in 1917, I think, because a bridge collapsed with all the cars over, because infrastructures are not being remodeled, how to say. So they steal our money. We pay a lot of taxes. Politicians are devil. And so somebody smart come up and say, bad word to politicians, go to help politicians. I will help you, citizen, achieving what you need, because politics is not able to get there anymore. And how all this Salvini, Cinque Stelle, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is happened, and the same with Trump, same issue. Same with Orban, the same with Le Pen in France, the same everywhere. Because the politicians and politics are not anymore the real politic. So no, I don't want to say real politics, no, because this is truly politicians and to help the citizens live a decent life. And the citizens are keeping paying taxes and they're not living a decent life. There are no jobs. And so Salvini comes up, and with you say with
Stepping Zalo and the 5-Star Movement.
The 5-Star movements, yeah, it's about that. And Salvini also tried to, because that the strategy is to disseminate fear, no? And he tried to use, for instance, immigrants like Trump, like Le Pen, as well as Orban, to get people scared, no? And so when people are scared, you give them the answers, and saying, I am your answer, I am the solution of the problem, they will believe you because they are scared. No? This is what happens with immigration, with xenophobic stuff. But with climate change, as you were saying, a lot of people are expected to arrive, much more than now. Millions of people.
So a lot of the refugees, a lot of the migrants that come to Italy are actually climate change refugees. That, and also from the grotesque wars that Italy is a partner in crime to, like Libya and whatnots, right?
Exactly. That is a very bad issue, because there are some deals between Italy and Libya, and so what are we talking about? There are deals, and also in Libya, being an immigrant is against the law. So they put these people in jails, but they use them as slaves, and they are the same people who then exploit them and make the human trafficking, earning money from these people. In fact, they leave to these people the phone, so that these people from the jails can call their families and send them more money in order to get on the boats and come to Europe. I am an activist and I'm a volunteer. I teach Italian to immigrants here. And I listen to so many bad stories. And people who pass through Libya, who goes through Libya to come here with the boats, they don't come at the first time. So they go on the boat, then they are kept maybe 1 mile, 2 miles from the coast. And they were put in the jail again. And this can happen 3, 4, 5, up to 8, 10 times until suddenly they can arrive in Italy if they don't sink, of course. So
crazy.
try to imagine how much money these people make. How much money if one person pay you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times and then goes back in the jail, and then he's a slave because he has to work in the jail like a slave, and then he goes out and goes on the boat and then again kept because it's illegal to be migrant and goes back on the jail. And this is really a shame for humanity, for human beings, and Europe should be more active and helping Italy a lot, because we are in the first line with Malta, with Spain, but lately a deal just wasn't reached
That's unbelievable. In fact, Berlusconi, although I opposed much of his foreign policy, the one thing I did agree with him on was that we should not have, overthrown Gaddafi in Libya and supported the non-existent moderate rebels there. And it's interesting because Beppe Grillo, who was first seen as this kind of left populist, later started to kind of pivot, especially on immigration, to the right, and also very much adopt a lot of Eurosceptic views. Now, Berlusconi, when he was eventually ousted, he wasn't ousted by the Italian electorate, but he was ousted by the EU and replaced with technocrats, and then later an Italian left coalition, which, as you've mentioned many times, which was pretty neoliberal. And then there were elections that that saw no outright winners, but then later a coalition government was formed with the far right La Liga, Matteo Salvini, and the Five Star Movement, but not led by Beppe Grillo. And the left leaning, or as and then the World Socialist website, which often calls the Five Star Movement a pseudo left party, they both joined forces and had very angry anti-EU platforms. And after a period, the Five Stars then got into partnership with, again, an Italian left coalition with the Democratic Party. But after 6 years of that coalition government, now Italy has this far-right coalition, which is formed with the Brothers of Italy, led by Giorgia Meloni, La Liga, and Forza Italia, Berlusconi's very first political party. And this is also not the first time Berlusconi has got into partnerships with La Liga, a far-right party. And can you give your assessment of this, and that in a way Berlusconi's last major act before his health declined was the current was this current government that we see, and so I want your assessment on that before I get to my sort of second to last question.
Berlusconi was so much smart that understood that he could win just with a strong coalition on the right side. So he said center right, but then he had made a coalition with the far right parties, Lega included, and Salvini, which is a populist party, but still far right. And this is what he kept doing for many times. And this is how they won the election, the last election. And Giorgia Meloni is the prime minister there now.
Because he was also barred from entering politics formally, right? Because of whatever the thing he did with prostitutes, or whatever or whatever corruption allegation that they got him on, right?
Yeah. And he's still there despite all that stuff, and also he maybe he's seen like the smart one, and so he's also admired because he's the smart one that managed how to avoid the law and to do his stuff regardless the law. But what I wanted to say is that the left wing is weak, okay, but it's also divided.
Yeah.
And the one who's dividing the left wing is Matteo Renzi. Matteo Renzi made a deal with Berlusconi, a Nazareno.
Matteo Renzi of the Democratic Party, which is supposed to be a left-leaning party, but it's really, as you've mentioned, it's just another Christian Democrat neoliberal party.
Exactly. But not only he's a Christian Democratic, but he's also not leftish at all. And his role is to destroy and divide the left. This is what he did also lately. 3 days ago, they were asking for the minimum salary. How to say it in English? No, minimum
wage. Yeah.
Minimum wage. Yes. Sorry about that. Yes, thank you. Minimum wage. And he was the one who said no. He was the one who said no. Also, the right wing was okay with that. So it looks like in the left, all the left parties are divided by this guy, and that's how they lost the elections, even though the number of votes were more for left parties, but they were, how to say, divided. So a little amount for this, a little amount for this, another amount for those, another amount for those. And they couldn't, there wasn't a coalition for the left parties. Instead, on the right wing, yes, on the right side, yes. And so they won the election. Think about how insane and without any explanation they act. It's like they want to make suicide. I don't know.
But then my second to last question that I have to ask you is, how can the left, the people power movements in Italy, overcome this hydra of right-wing movements and come to power and address the concerns of the working class and precarious middle class? What do you think? What do you think it's going to take for the left in Italy to get in power? But when they get in power, they get constantly elected because they're actually addressing the concerns of people and helping out the people. It seems as if every time there's like a left coalition in Italy, they govern like right wingers or.
Yeah, actually, Renzi and Calenda, which is another one who made a little coalition between themselves, and then they split and they argued a lot and they got mad one to the other. So the problem is this one: they have to get united. They have to be one. They have to do democracy, which is synthesis. And this is a paradox, because this is what the right wing is doing. They are overcoming all the differences, trying to find unity in order to make a synthesis of the different thinking and win the elections and maybe give an answer to citizens' requests. So this is democracy, to put together all the things and avoid the differences and talk about what we have in common. And so they talk about their values, they talk about their goals, they are all the same, but then they have personal interests. Maybe they want to keep the seats in the parliament tied, a lot of human being stuff that power stuff that they don't want to overcome, to go over, and so they should be united. they have to reach unity, and they have to go back to the real meaning of politics. They have to read back Platoon, the Republic of Platoon. This was his book.
Plato, yes, yeah.
Go there, back there, and think about what does politics mean? What does leading a country mean? Who is in the center of the whole thing? It's the citizen, his needs. Everything is made, it has a meaning if you make your citizens, your people, live a decent life. Because this life is not decent. We are more and more poor everywhere in the world, but there are few rich, super rich people and a lot of people. So the middle class and the working class you were talking about is disappearing. It's like the scissor is opening a lot and the middle is empty because they are going toward the poor, the poverty, the poor people, and this is what the left-wing parties should go back to the re-meaning of what they have to do.
Do you think we'll see the last of the Five-Star Movement, or do you think that, or do you think they'll be a dominant force like in the future?
A Five Movement became a party now. It's not as populist as it used to be, let's say, because of the new leader, who is Giuseppe Conte, who is a very good guy. I like him, and he's balanced. He's talking about what I'm talking about. So citizens need and all that stuff. And in fact, there's a good connection and communication with the left wing, with Partito Democratico, and now.
And has he abandoned a lot of the xenophobic policies that Beppe Grillo and the leader after him adopted?
No, he's not xenophobic at all.
Okay, perfect.
No, but Beppe Grillo wasn't. I don't remember he was that much xenophobic. Salvini is a super. Lega is super xenophobic, and Meloni with the Fratelli d'Italia. Let's say one thing: Giorgia Meloni, she has a very strong political background because she, since she was a teenager, she was, in this section, political sections, and she was having a political activity, but she became a minister of youth politics. I don't know how to translate it. Politiche giovanili. Thanks to Berlusconi, when she was only 30 or more, little more than 30 years old. So even though she's really prepared, she studied, she has a thick background in politics. She started her career in the government thanks to Berlusconi. Because it was really early for her to become a minister. She was really, she is one politician that has a background. Nowadays, we have a lot of people who don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. In her terrible right-wing way, at least she is prepared. She's a kind of professional of what she's doing. Unfortunately, she's a nationalist, and so when politicians were talking about Italy, they used the word country. Our country is the country is. She replace the word country with nation. Now she talks in nation terms. So our nation, and this is really weird because she's young, and she became a politician when she was only 30, but she looks like in the 1980, sorry, in the say 1800, in that century where nationalism was born after the after
Yes.
I have a historical term. Do you remember Napoleone? After Napoleon fire, every nation,
18th or 19th century.
Okay, in the 19th century. So she's talking about nations, identity, like religion, language. Io sono Georgia. I'm Georgia. I'm a mother. I'm Christian. I'm Catholic. Who cares? There was a globalization. 30 years ago, the wall fell, and there is the internet. There is also the low-cost airlines. So people travel a lot. We are one. We have climate change. Our common house is the Earth, planet Earth. And she's talking about nation in 2023. This is, I think she has no future. I hope, as I told you, that in 20 years, these young generations are overcoming the thing, and everything will change, unless, as you told, climate change would be lethal.
Yeah. Yeah, come sooner rather than later, or accidental nuclear war. Well, I'm going to skip. I'm going to skip this question I want to ask you about the EU, but we're definitely going to have you back to talk about Italy and its relations with the EU, and whether the EU can be reformed as a left project, or whether or whether it should be completely abandoned. But we're going to save that for another time. Before we end the program, we usually end the program with the questionnaire that was done by Marcel Proust, later the popular French broadcaster Bernard Pivot, and then later my hero James Lipton, the late great James Lipton of Inside the Actors Studio. So Cecilia, it's your turn to do this before I let you enjoy the rest of your evening. So here it goes. So Cecilia, what is your favorite word?
My favorite word?
And it could be in Italian. Or any language for that matter.
No, I don't want to look like this contest of beautiful beauty contests where all these girls say, "I wish peace in for the world," but my best word is pace, is peace. I'm sorry about that.
And then what's your least favorite words?
My least favorite word is intolerance.
Intolerance. Fantastic. And what turns you on creatively, spiritually, psychologically, or emotionally?
Say it again, sorry.
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, psychologically, or emotionally?
Terms, you mean? What terms?
Yeah, like what inspires you, and like what inspires you?
What inspired me psychologically, spiritually, the music.
Okay, fantastic. And then what turns you off then?
Say it again, because I hear very bad.
What turns you off then? Like what's the opposite of what like inspires? Like what really like gets under your skin?
What sets me off? When people don't want to communicate. So in communication. So let's say wherever there's no communication, and music is communication. Peace is the result of communication. Let's say that communication is what I really believe should be taught at school. Also should be something that people should nourish, should work on.
Yeah.
What set me off is when people don't want to listen, to see, to communicate. I don't know if there's a term that translates that. The ottusità mentale. Somebody's close-minded, not open-minded, but close-minded.
And then what sound or noise do you love, followed by what sound or noise do you dislike?
Sort of noise.
Yeah. What sound or noise do you love, and then what sound or noise do you dislike?
I love people singing together, so this is a good noise.
Yes. and then what sound or noise do you dislike then?
I dislike the nail on the blackboard.
Yes. And then what is your favorite curse word?
A bad word, you mean?
Yes.
The favorite that I use a lot.
Yes.
Minchia. I don't know why, but I use it a lot.
Wait. Say it again. Wait, minchia?
Minchia is a Sicilian dialect.
Okay, nice.
But I like to say shit when something wrong is going on, and you say, oh my, no? When you say, oh my, I say minchia. But it's different shadows. But minchia, yeah. I'm sorry.
And then what profession, if you weren't doing journalism, what profession would you like to do? So if you weren't doing journalism and the great people, the great service of of humanity that you do, what what would you love to do?
I would be a musician, but in terms of communication with music, of what I believe in. So doing what I'm doing, but through music.
Oh, brilliant! And then what profession would you absolutely not want to do under any circumstances?
I wouldn't never work with numbers and finance and in a bank or account staff. Account. Yeah, I cannot do that.
Fantastic. And then my final question: if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say as you arrive at the pearly gates?
What the hell did you want to achieve with all this stuff you did? I don't know. Maybe a question, not a statement. He would ask me what I don't know.
So God will be asking you, what do you think you achieved? So
what did you want to go? Why did you enjoy your life instead of fighting so much? I gave you everything. Why didn't you enjoy it? I don't know.
Well, I think. I hope as you continue to live a very long life, I'm sure that I'm sure he'll compliment you on what you've, on what you've accomplished. So I hope he does get to. I hope he, she, or they get to ask that question. Well, alrighty. Well, we were joined on this edition of 1+1, your place for inconvenient truth telling and myth busting, our all things Italian edition with Cecilia Capanna, an independent Italian journalist, activist, and feminist who is part of Other news publication. Cecilia, it was an honor to speak to you. I hope this will be the first of many conversations, and yes, and keep doing the great work you do, and I hope that we remain in touch.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really a pleasure and an honor. And yes, I wish it will be the first of many other meetings with you and conversations. Thank you. And have a good rest.